Hey everybody, it's Nathan Selove with another edition of Autism Actually Speaking. Today's topic is one that I'm sure a lot of people either have experience with or have heard stories about. Parents that have trouble accepting that their child is autistic. The reason why I'm making this video is because I've been getting comment after comment from autistics telling their own stories. And many of these stories have one common theme. They start out with their parents having trouble accepting the fact that they are autistic. And unfortunately, this can have a negative effect on an autistic's ability to both develop a sense of self-image and also receive accommodations. So today I want to talk about why parents have trouble accepting their child's autism, what negative effects this can have, and how we can fix it. And before I get started, I want to make one thing clear. This is not an indictment of parents. I am not trying to shame parents or guilt parents or any of that. If you've seen the My Diagnosis story on this channel, you know that even my mother had trouble accepting that I was autistic at first. And even she had trouble even telling me that I was autistic. And she was a professional in the field of psychology who is now a nationally renowned expert in autism. So I am not trying to shame you. Instead, I'm trying to help you through the process. So please hear me out. The biggest reason why some parents have trouble admitting that their child is autistic is because of the stigma that comes from an autism diagnosis. Autism is viewed as something that is wrong with someone. And no parent wants to admit that there's something wrong with their child, that there's something off about their child. So when a therapist or a professional psychologist comes to a parent with a list of diagnostic criteria for their child, they don't want to admit it. They don't want to accept it. Parents are very quick to blame themselves when there seems to be something wrong with their child. And a lot of parents don't want to go through that. Another major reason why a lot of parents don't want to admit that their child is autistic is because they don't want their child to feel the stigma attached to the diagnosis. But here's the thing. Children have not been ingrained with the idea that an autism diagnosis is something that they should be ashamed of on a social level. That's something that society ingrains into us over time. So if you tell a child that they're autistic, most of the time that's not automatically going to give them the reaction of, oh, well, that's something wrong with me. So now I want to talk about the negative effects that this can have. When an autism diagnosis is withheld because of fear by parents, that can limit the autistic child's ability to receive accommodations. There's this mentality that if you don't give a kid an accommodation, that's going to make them compensate for it in their own way and be more likely to be more normal. But that's not how it works. When you don't give an autistic kid accommodation, that's going to stunt their development. The second negative effect is the sense of self-image and self-esteem. Before I learned that I was autistic in elementary school, I had a really negative self-esteem. I didn't view myself as being a good person because people never responded well to me. And I always assumed that it was my fault, that there was something wrong about how I acted. Ironically, not knowing that I was autistic was a lot more harmful for my social development. So how do we fix this? Well, first off, we need to fight against this notion that being autistic is something to be ashamed of. And that's the mission of channels like this. So if a psychologist is showing you the diagnostic criteria and you're refusing to accept it, you are capitulating to the narrative that those of us on the autism spectrum are wrong. And I really try to assume the best in people. I don't think that that's the intention of parents. So if your child is diagnosed with autism, don't think of it as the end of the world. Many autistics, when they have proper accommodations, can become productive members of society. And instead of capitulating to the idea that if you're autistic, then your life is automatically going to be bad, fight against the structural aspects that make it more difficult for autistics to navigate through this world. And finally, those of us on the spectrum need to continue to create a sense of community so that those of us who are ostracized by society have a place to come where they can feel accepted. That is why I love the comment section of my videos, because you as viewers are so supportive of each other. When someone is asking for help in something, there's several people that descend upon it in order to offer their perspectives and to offer their resources. So continue doing that. continue fighting for each other. Well, that's today's video. Thank you all for watching. If you liked this episode, please give it a like, a share, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. Check out some of my other stuff. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, support me on Patreon. In the meantime, if you have any questions or topics you'd like addressed, please leave them in the comments below. Or message me on my Facebook, also linked below. And remember, if your child is autistic, you might be autistic. And that's okay.